During last night's House floor session, there was a lot of amazing speeches in support of removing Marjorie Greene from our committees for insert a billion insane, unacceptable, and violent conspiracy theories. And I want to highlight a few, starting with Representative Ilhan Omar.
About who we are as a body and what we are as a democracy. This is about whether it is acceptable to cheer on and encourage an insurrection against our basic democratic process. This is about whether it is okay to demand members swear in on a Bible of a religion they do not practice. This is about whether it is okay to hold an assault rifle next to members' heads in a campaign ad and incite death threats against them. This is about whether it is okay to encourage the murder of the Speaker of the House.
Yes, all of those things should, I think we can agree, be unacceptable. But we do have to keep reminding people, because there has been this campaign by the right to just pitch her as kooky or wacky or a little bit different. No, she believes very specific, potentially violent things. She has supported violence against current elected politicians. Ilhan Omar talked about, fleeing a country that was experiencing political violence and saying that this is not a thing that's just going to go away. We need to actually do something about it. And so, good there by Representative Omar.
Yes, it's one of those things where you hear yourself saying it out loud, and you can't believe that it's actually happening. So she's just asking, is it okay to say that you want to kill Nancy Pelosi? And that, I mean, I know you're gonna get to Hoyer, but just all we're trying to do is point out what she's saying and not cancel her or put her in jail, but just to have consequences for this kind of stuff. Yes, the people who voted for Marjorie Taylor Greene put her in Congress. That's it. Every other thing that she's asking for is just this crazy sense of entitlement that she has to be on these committees when her party doesn't have power. And yes, the parties carve out the ability to do this kind of stuff, but to assign their own people to the Congress. But there's also mechanisms like this very one that they're doing right now to check that power. It is just a check on that power within the rules of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, and they look, again, it seems pointless to point this out because they're not operating in good faith, but they do actually, despite all evidence to the contrary, get the idea of consequences when they're trying to remove Liz Cheney from Republican leadership for voting to impeach the president. They get consequences. When Trump is gearing up for a national speaking tour to attack all of the 10 who voted to impeach him, they get consequences. They're not worried about cancel culture in that case. Again, cancel culture, like so many political terms, has been turned into a thing that means literally nothing. But Ilhan Omar was great. I want to skip ahead to Rashida Tlaib. She gave some of the most emotional testimony last night. So let's take a look at what Representative Tlaib had to say.
This is so hard because, as many of my colleagues know, my closest colleagues know, on my very first day of orientation, I got my first death threat. It was a serious one. They took me aside. The FBI had to go to the gentleman's home. I didn't even get sworn in yet when someone wanted me dead for just existing. More came later. Uglier, more violent. One celebrating and writing the New Zealand massacre and hoping that more would come. Another mentioning my dear son, Adam. Mentioning him by name. Each one paralyzed me each time. So what happened on January 6th, all I could do was thank Allah that I wasn't here. I felt overwhelming relief, and I feel bad for Alexandria, so many of my colleagues that were here. But as I saw it, I thought to myself, thank God I am not there. I saw the images that they didn't get to see until later.
So obviously very emotional. I was tearing up this morning watching that. A reminder to everyone that these concerns that these representatives have they're not fake. They've been getting these death threats for a very long time, having a woman serving next to them who has called for the murder of Speaker Pelosi, or at least thinks it deserves a good thumbs up, is not nothing. It's not making it about you. It's not being emotional. It's not manipulative. It's true. It's true. And they get terrified about things as well, things that are far more abstract than the direct death threats to members of their family that all of these women have experienced. It is real. We do need to do something about it. It is so sickening how casual it's become to pretend that any of these individuals worrying about violence against them is meaningless. And to do so in a context where I know that if she talked about a death threat to her son, if some crazy MAGA head had gone and killed her son, they would be running interference for that person. No, it's not a true MAGA. It's not a true MAGA person. They don't really like Trump. Islamophobia is not really a thing. They would do that. They would do that. And so again, as we were saying with what AOC said on Instagram Live, like this is not new to them, this fear. And the fact that they keep serving, knowing that there are entire media companies who devote a great deal of their time to demonizing about these women, and yet they still do it. That is incredibly admirable. It's incredibly difficult.
And it's so insidious and so boring to like I am so tired of that dynamic because it's just intentionally, or it's utterly disingenuous. When they revert back to these kinds of attacks. That's what's so frustrating. That's one of the aspects that's like very specifically frustrating about it. It's just so tried. It's just so old and crusty, and they look around in the way they're like, should we move on? As we're sitting here saying, we notice people are kind of calling for unity. What do we want? No, we're gonna have BS attempts for unity.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.